Millions of businesses use Google Ads. Every day, companies all over the world spend money trying to get clicks, leads, and sales. Some of them succeed, many of them don't. In fact, most advertisers lose money. And yet, Google keeps reporting record ad revenue, quarter after quarter, year after year. So this raises an important question. The question is not, does Google Ads work? Because clearly it works for someone. The real question is, who does it actually work for? Google presents itself as a partner for businesses. They offer recommendation, automation, smart bidding, even account managers who call you every week to help you grow. But at the same time, Google is also the platform that makes money every time you spend more. So it doesn't mean Google is evil. It doesn't mean Google is lying, but it does mean there are incentives. And when incentives are misaligned, decisions start benefiting one side more than the other. And after managing hundreds of campaigns and millions in ad spend, I started noticing patterns. The same recommendations, the same best practices, the same campaigns being pushed, even when they didn't make sense for the business. And slowly a bigger picture appeared. This documentary is not about conspiracy theories. It's about understanding how Google Ads really works, how incentives shape the system, and why some strategies are pushed so hard. Once you understand that, you can stop blindly following the recommendation and start making decisions that actually make sense for your business. And let's start with the most important question of all. Why would Google ever push you away from search into the other channels? Let's start from something simple.
I think search will be front and center, Julie. This is still Google's bread and butter, and there are questions about just the competitive landscape with the rise and popularity of Gen AI.
Google is a public company. Its parent company is called Alphabet. That means Google's main responsibility is not advertisers, it's investors. Every quarter they must show growth, more revenue, more profit. And most of that money comes from advertising. Google Search is their best product. When someone searches for buy shoes or marketing agency near me, that person already wants something. That's high intent, that's why search ads work so well. But here's the problem. Search has a hard limit. People can only search certain times per day. Google cannot force people to search even more. So even if search is profitable, it cannot grow forever. Now think like Google. If search can scale infinitely, where do you grow next? You don't look for more intent, you look for more attention. And attention lives somewhere else. On YouTube. On YouTube, people don't stop. They scroll, they watch. One video becomes 10 becomes an hour, and inside that endless stream, Google can place ads again and again and again. Unlike search, YouTube has no natural limit. That's why Google is pushing it so hard. If you look at Google's revenue, the pattern is clear. Search still makes the most money, but YouTube is growing fast. And not because it converts better, but because it allows for more ads. Shorts, pre-rolls, mid-rolls, in-feed ads, more space, more impressions, and more revenue. Search is a pull engine. The user asks first, only then Google show an ad. YouTube is push channel. Google decides when to show ads, how often and to whom. The user didn't ask for them, but they still see them, and this difference matters. So search volume is limited, attention is not, and once you understand this, Google's behavior starts to make sense. When they recommend YouTube, demand gen, discovery, display, they're not just thinking about your results, they're also thinking about how to fill massive amounts of ad space. Google Ads is not evil, but it's also not neutral. It follows incentives. And once you understand the incentives, you stop blindly trusting recommendation and start making better decisions.
You got the ROAS, clicks, and CPC. Bad day, add a low CPC, you get 30. If you then have a good day with low CPC, the next day you get a bad CPC. But then because you had lower performance, you get a good CPC again.
This is the part where things get uncomfortable. So let's be very clear from the start. Google doesn't manually raises your CPCs. There is no person at Google clicking a button saying let's charge the advertiser more today. What actually happens is more subtle and more powerful. How smart bidding really works. Google Ads using an auction, but it's not simple auction. Before your ad even enters the auction, Google predicts how valuable each user is to you. It uses conversion data, conversion values, GA4, Google Analytics 4, enhanced conversion, and historical performance. Every user gets a score. So let's imagine there are 100 potential users. With higher TROAS, Google will focus only on the top 10. So you get great return on ad spend, everything looks perfect, but the other 90 users, Google assumes they are less likely to convert. They are colder and more expensive to convince. And the only way to reach them is to lower your target ROAS, which means one thing: higher CPCs. Why cost per clicks rise when performance is good? When you send strong conversion signals, Google becomes more aggressive in auctions. Why? Because higher predicted value means higher willingness to bid. So when performance improves, cost per clicks rise, impression share stays similar, and scaling becomes harder. From the advertiser perspective, success increases cost faster than profits. So you may notice a pattern. Good return on ad spend day, CPCs go up, bad day, CPC goes down. The system constantly self-corrects, but not toward your profit ceiling, towards Google revenue ceiling. Now here's the critical part. If your search impression share doesn't increase, but your budget does, so you are not reaching new people. You are paying more for the same users. That's why simply increasing the budget often doesn't scale results. It just increases CPCs. Why Google pushes enhanced conversion and GA4, Google Analytics 4? Google strongly encourages enhanced conversions, GA4, deeper data integration, and they do it for a reason. If Google doesn't know how valuable traffic is to you, it cannot bid more aggressively. So more data, higher confidence, and higher confidence, higher bids. This is also why Google says you can move to a higher level auction by bidding more. So the auction favors advertisers who are willing to spend more. Basically, Google runs the entire ecosystem. It sets the rules, runs the auction, and earns money from higher bids. That doesn't make it illegal, but it does create a conflict of interest, and system naturally prioritizes spend, stability, and revenue, and not necessarily advertiser efficiency. So we have a case study. When conversions were removed from the primary optimization signal, we didn't turn tracking off completely. Instead, we set YouTube engagement as the primary conversion action. It remained active, but it wasn't a conversion that reflected real revenue. So because this campaign objective was engagement, Google couldn't accurately estimate how much click was worth for our business. As a result, the system bid less aggressive, which led to significantly lower CPCs and cheaper traffic. In simple terms, when Google has less confidence in monetary value of a click, it is less aggressive in auctions. That's why we were able to access more inventory at a lower cost. Search top impression share, so top 4 position, increased by 76%, CPC dropped by 50%, revenue in the backend increased from $18,000 to $27,000. Why Google insists on conversion even on manual CPC when we don't use smart bidding? Because bids are still adjusted based on your goals. As Google Ads product representative has said, smart bidding is not designed to maximize impressions, which means it's not designed for easy scaling. This is why advanced advertisers cap signals, so limit signals, segment conversion action, delay value optimization, and temporarily shift primary goals. So not to game the system, but to avoid being priced out of their own growth. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Conversion tracking setup to ensure Google optimizes correctly, campaign audits and optimization to reduce wasted spend because Google likes to spend your money inefficiently. And we also guide on which signals to feed the algorithm. Smart bidding is powerful, but it's not neutral. It doesn't ask what maximizes your profit, it asks how much are you willing to pay to keep this performance. And once you understand that, you stop scaling blindly and start scaling strategically. If you ever run Google Ads, you'll probably receive the call, a Google representative offering to help optimize your account. They sound helpful, professional, and confident, but here's something most advertisers don't realize. Most Google Ads representatives are not Google employees, they are third-party contractors. Their job is not to deeply understand your business, they don't audit your funnels, they don't know your margins, and they don't see what happens after the click. They see one thing: your ad account. Their performance is measured by KPIs, and those KPIs usually include adoption of new products, activation of new features, and increased ad spend, not profitability and not return on investment. They also don't carry downside risk. If your campaign fails, they move on to the next account. And they also won't attend your meetings with clients where they will explain why this campaign failed. So when a representative recommends something, it's important to understand the context. Their job is not to make you profitable, their job is to make you spend more, but in a way that looks safe. That usually means more reach, more impressions, more automations, even though things doesn't help your bottom line. This is where Demand Gen comes in. Demand Gen works very well for big brands, massive budgets, long attribution windows, companies that can afford to wait months to see results. But for small budget, direct response businesses, tight margins, demand gen often does the opposite. It increases spend without increasing sales. You will notice the same pattern: weekly calls, the same recommendation, the same slides. Try demand gen, enable PMax, turn on more automation, and rarely let's analyze your funnel, and rarely let's talk about margins. If demand gen was truly optional, they wouldn't call you every week. Remember, Google reps are not villains, but they are sales. And once you understand this, their recommendation make a lot of sense. The problem is not bad intention, it's misaligned incentives. For advertisers or agents in managing campaigns themselves, we provide a Google Drive folder full of checklists, templates, and resources to make campaign setup and optimization easier without Google representatives. To understand why so many Google Ads accounts look profitable on paper but not in real life, we need to talk about attribution, because attribution changes everything. In the past, things were simple. If a user clicked on an ad and then bought something, that ad got the credit. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. You could clearly see what actually drove the sale. Today, the default is data-driven attribution. This means Google looks at the entire user journey: search, YouTube, display, discovery, performance max. Any campaign that touches a user at any point can receive conversion credit, even if it didn't influence the decision in a meaningful way. This system heavily benefits demand gen, YouTube, display, performance max. Why? Because these campaigns appear everywhere. They touch users early, passively, often without intent. So when the later user converts with search or brand, these campaigns got partial credit. The dashboard shows conversion, but the traffic may not have come directly from them. Let's take a closer look. Demand gen is designed for top-of-funnel campaigns. It's often used for things like coupons, newsletters, ebooks. For cold traffic, however, YouTube tends to work better. So for example, if you are selling UPC routes, you might offer an ebook with a lead form containing multiple fields. Sounds simple, but here's the problem. If you don't exclude previous visitors and converters from your YouTube, you will see a huge spike in engaged view conversions. Users may see the ad once and still convert, but they were not really coming from demand gen. So why does it happen? Demand gen is capturing all engaged view conversions, even those users who didn't come directly from the campaign. It inflates the numbers and spikes traffic artificially. Essentially, demand gen can appear to generate results, but it's often just attributing conversion to itself. When we tested it, qualified leads didn't increase, branded search decreased, and click share stays the same. Meanwhile, other campaigns like YouTube actually lost conversion because demand gen inserted itself into the conversion path unnecessarily. So the real question becomes, is demand gen really creating demand or just inflating its attribution? Performance max combines search, shopping, YouTube, display, discovery, Gmail. That sounds efficient, but it creates a problem. PMax absorbs brand searches, remarketing traffic, and existing demand, and claims credit for conversions that would likely have happened anyway. A user might see your YouTube ad, scroll past a display ad, and later search your brand and convert. With data-driven attribution, YouTube gets credit, display gets credit, PMax gets credit. Your account looks diversified, but your demand didn't increase. Only the attribution did. Attribution doesn't create performance, and when you don't control attribution, you don't really know what's working. You just know what Google decided to count. So far, we've seen how Google Ads is driven by incentives, smart bidding favors clicks that signal high value, and attribution inflates performance of upper funnel campaigns. Now let's talk about what actually works if you want real profitable growth. The first rule is simple: start with high intent users. These are people who already want what you sell. They search for specific keywords, product names, or services. Focus here first, because you know this user convert. Every dollar spent here is most likely to return value, and you can control spend and return on net spend tightly. Don't start with YouTube, demand gen, or display. Start where the intent is the highest, the bottom of the funnel. So later on, hit 80-90 impression share. Once you dominate those high intent keywords, you can go next and show up on YouTube or Google Display. Here's the real case we managed. The client had been working with a previous agency. Their CPA ranged from 150 in local currency to 350 per conversion. By restructuring the campaigns, bottom funnel focus first, tight keywords targeting, segment smart bidding, controlled scaling, we brought the CPC down to 66 per conversion. That's more than 50-80 cost reduction without reducing overall sales. This shows the power of starting from the bottom and building a controlled, efficient funnel. After you capture the high-intent audience, slowly expand to broader generic keywords, experiment with variation, and keep monitoring your return on ad spend and cost per acquisition. Goal here is to increase your reach without sacrificing efficiency. Finally, after that, you can add YouTube, demand gen, and display. While last, because upper funnel campaigns can capture attention, but often inflate attribution, are more expensive per conversion, work best when the core funnel is already strong. Think of it like building a house. Foundation first, then walls, and then the roof. Without a foundation, the roof won't hold. And with the right tracking, guidance, and tools, you don't just spend money, you invest it. If you need assistance implementing these strategies, we also offer personal consultation to help set up your campaigns for maximum efficiency. So if you follow this strategy, you stop chasing every shiny recommendation. You stop scaling blindly, you start spending smarter, not just more. Because at the end of the day, Google Ads can make more money for anyone, but it only makes profit for the advertisers who start from the bottom and work their way up.